So after taking the blessings from Mata Sundari, let's start this session. I'm happy to announce that today more than 20 countries are participating in this Congress, including Poland, Romania, Russia, UK, and UAE. And we have received more than 150 research papers for this Congress. So as we gather here under the banner of 8th Asia Pacific International Modern Sciences Congress, we find ourselves at the intersection of knowledge, innovation, and collaboration. So today we have two distinguished keynote speakers, Professor Vandana Mishra from University of Delhi, India, and Professor Luizia Gabunia from Tbilisi State Medical University, Georgia. So we are honored to have both of you as a keynote speakers today. And let's start with the welcome of our guest. I'd like to invite our respected principal madam and head of the Congress, Professor Harpreet Kaur, for the welcome note.
Very good morning, present. Very good morning to all of you. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend a very warm welcome to all present. As Dr. Uzma has told us that it is from 150 countries that participants are participating in this Congress. So I welcome each one of you from different corners of the world to participate in this 8th Asia Pacific International Modern Sciences Congress. This is by collaboration with EXAT Turkey. And with this, I really extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Mustafa Latif Ahmed. His continuous support and collaboration has been really meaningful, and we have done a lot of conferences together, more than 10 international conferences in the past few years. And of course, we have also seen how closely with that, Turkey and India have some connections that we have delved upon that also. And with G20, where, Turkey is also a part and India holding the presidency, more can be looked into the things, we can look forward to new things, possibilities. With this, I also welcome Professor Vandana Mishra. She's from Department of Environmental Studies, University of Delhi. I welcome you, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. And also Professor Luisa, she's Director of Scientific Research Skill Center from Georgia. They have accepted our invitation to be keynote speakers. So thank you very much. Our conference has brought together a diverse group of experts, innovators, and thought leaders. Different people from different domains, from different disciplines are there in this Congress. And so we are talking about this advancing knowledge and pushing the boundaries in their respective fields. They'll be presenting a lot of things. Professor Vandana Mishra, for example, is going to delve upon fast fashion ripple effect. This is very interesting topic. When I came to know, I really was impressed because this is what is driving our youth in a positive, in a really negative manner also. So we have to positively engage them. So this fast fashion can be channelized as a source of energy and not a source of sustainable effect, which is negative. So also Professor Luisa, she's going to talk about the management of diseases. And this conference would be in a hybrid mode. Today, we are having this online presentations, and tomorrow one session would be there at Mata Sundari College. For this, I already welcome our guests who are here, who will be from Turkey, who have come here and who will be joining us tomorrow. For the next 2 days, there will be meaningful discussions. We will share groundbreaking researches and forge valuable connections. These have the possibility to shape the future in a positive manner. So this conference is basically a kind of a platform where we can where there can be exchange of ideas and positive change can be brought about. And also further researches can be thought of. Further researches, as Dr. Mustafa and we have been thinking also that we can have some short-term courses where our students would be benefited from these researches from across the boundaries, and also we can have some exchanges of the students as well. Your students can come here and go there. So these kind of things can be made, and things would be more meaningful. So once again, I really have gratitude for all our participants. They have done a lot of research and they have really worked hard, and they will be joining us for this conference. So your generous support has made it possible to assemble with remarkable gathering of minds. So this also my organizers, Dr. Uzma, her team, and also organizers at ECSAT, Dr. Mustafa's team is very, very strong, and they do tireless efforts, putting up so many conferences at a stretch. So it is really appreciable that these dedicated volunteers and are putting in countless hours of work for planning and executing the conference in a very, very flawless manner. So when as we embark on this journey of knowledge sharing and collaboration, let us keep in mind that how we can address some of the problems which the world is facing. There are so many pressing challenges the world is facing today, whether it is sustainability, whether it is the condition of women, and so many others. But so here we can share and we can address some of the problems. And of course, these sessions, these lively discussions, this opportunity to learn from each other can make both many of the countries together in a positive interaction. So this diversity of thought and new perspectives will flow in. And so with this, I thank all the participants for your presence today. Let us together do some work, and let us bring an answer to so many pressing questions which the world is facing together. And I think these forums where the discussions are taking place, where lively knowledge sharing is there, in this we can really we can do learning, sharing, caring, and with this a lot of problems of the world can be really eradicated. And so these kind of interactions are really a positive, according to me, it's a positive step which we should continue, and in our efforts to strive and solve all the problems which the world is facing today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the warm welcome to our guest. Now I'd like to invite again respected Dr. Mustafa Latif Emek, President ECSAT Turkey, to say a few words and welcome our guests. Sir, please unmute yourself.
I think he has already. Dr. Mustafa, we are talking about, huh? Dr. Mustafa has.
Hello.
I think he has addressed.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, dear guests, dear participants, dear students, and dear colleagues. I'm greeting you. Welcome to our conference. Thank you very much again to Mata Sundari College for Women and Mrs. Harpreet Kaur for our cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So this is our organizing team. So let's start with our keynote lectures. So our first keynote lecture is from Professor Vandana Mishra from Department of Environmental Studies, University of Delhi. So Professor Vandana has working as a professor at the Department of Environmental Studies. She is also the director of Center for Interdisciplinary Studies for Mountain and Hill Environment, University of Delhi. She has worked as a visiting scientist at MIT, Cambridge, USA during 2011-12. She has completed several major and minor research projects on environmental restoration and bioprospecting. She has authored more than 50 research papers in Tier 1 high impact factor journals, basically international journals, and book chapter. She guides PhD scholars, teaches postgraduate students, and serves as reviewers to government ministries for different research projects and research journals for research papers. She has developed fruitful interdisciplinary intra and inter-institutional collaboration within and outside India. She has secured several national recognitions from various academic bodies like SERB Women Excellence Award from Government of India in 2013, DBT Crest Award in Basic Research in Modern Biology, INSA Young Scientist Medal Award in Plant Science in 2006, DST Voicecast Overseas Award 2011. And many more. Today, she will enlighten us on the topic fast fashion's ripple effect, assessing impact, and taking steps. So, welcome, ma'am. Please start your session, Vandana, ma'am. Professor Vandana.
Thank you, Dr. Uzma. Thank you so much. So, a very, very warm welcome to Professor Luzia, Dr. Mustafa, our own principal, ma'am, Dr. Harpreet, Dr. Uzma. First of all, a heartfelt congratulations for all these endeavors that you have been organizing so successfully. And also thanks for giving me this platform to actually share some of the work that I have been doing at University of Delhi for more than, say, 15, 20 years. Let me just start with the presentation. So I chose this topic, fast fashion, because what happens often, can you see my screen?
No, ma'am, it's not visible right now.
No, not visible.
You can't see my screen.
Ma'am, reshare again.
Yeah. I'll just rejoin, huh?
Okay, ma'am. So can we start with another speaker?
Yeah, I think that'll be better.
Okay. So as the technical issue is there, so I'd like to invite our next speaker, Professor Luisa Gavinia, Director of Scientific Research Skills Center and President of Biomedical Research. Let me share screen first so that it will be visible.
Hello, dear colleagues, dear organizers, which organized
Just a
this conference, ICSAT institution with Delhi University. Congratulations, opening of 8th Asia Pacific International Modern Sciences Congress, and I wish you success in this conference. As one organizer told about me, I am Director of Scientific Research Skills Center at Tbilisi State Medical University of Georgia. I am Associate Professor of Medical Pharmacology Department. Title of my presentation is Polypharmacy as one of the causes of iatrogenic disease, the main aspects of its prevention and management. I will share my screen. Just a moment. Do you see my screen?
Yes, it's visible. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Give it on a full display, ma'am, please.
Yes, just a moment. Again, I here. Just a moment again.
Professor Gavinia.
Just a moment. Sorry. Just a moment. I share again. Now, do you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Let's start. Sorry. Again, I shall repeat about title of my presentation, Polypharmacy as one of the causes of iatrogenic disease, the main aspects of its prevention and management. Even in the 4th century, the Hippocratic stated, I will protect patients from all harmful and dangerous influences. And later, it became the main principle of treatment, stated, Emium non nocere. As you know, polypharmacy is associated with the overusing of medication. Another name, polypharmacy, is associated with polymorbidism and polytherapy, which are the causes, new nosological forms or iatrogenic disease. As we all know, medicine is a constantly renewing and developing science. According to the data of pharmacoepidemiological studies of the World Health Organization. This, due to the drug-related complications in developed countries, ranks from 4th and 5th after cardiovascular, cancer, respiratory system diseases. According to the data of recent years in the United States of America, 9 million cases of pharmacotherapeutic complications have been registered, of which 200,000 ended with a fatal outcome, and 30 out of every 100 complications with the doctor's mistakes. Polypharmacy decreasing the safety and effectiveness of drug. During polypharmacy, the frequency of interactions between drugs increases, which leads to a decrease in effectiveness and safety of drugs. As a result of pharmacoepidemiological studies of the World Health Organization, it was revealed that when using less than 5 medications, adverse side effects do not exceed 5%. And when 5 or more drugs are combined, it increases roughly by 25%. In 23% of cases of combination of 5 or more medicines prescribed by the doctor, a potential dangerous outcome develops, and in about 1/3 of the mentioned cases, a lethal. We already knew what means iatrogenicity. I should repeat. The term iatrogenicity was first introduced into the medicine by the German psychiatrist Oswald Bumke in his scientific work in 1925. The title of the scientific work was "The Doctor as a Cause of Mental Disorders." Iatrogenicity is a change in human health, deterioration which can be caused by careless action or word of a doctor. The most common iatrogenicity are hospital, diagnostic, and drug-induced iatrogenicity. Adverse drug reactions or side effects are one of the most frequent problems for doctors and are often the cause of hospitalization, which is most of found in polypharmacy. The more frequent causes of which are incorrect intake of medications prescribed by doctors, mostly in older patients, simultaneous use of drug characterized by synergies, for example, aspirin, warfarin, combination of several antihypertensive drugs, cytostatic reactions, for example, liver damage developed as a result of acetaminophen overdose. Immunologic reactions, quinidine thrombocytopenia, hydralazine-induced lupus erythematosus syndrome, idiosyncratic reactions caused by genetically determined enzymopathies. More rare are biochemical disorders, for example, hemolytic anemia, developed with deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, granulocytosis, and thrombocytopenia. Now, what is the stop-start criteria? It's very important documentation. In 2008, in Ireland, 19 experts from 30 European countries developed the start-stop criteria. This criteria were updated in 2015 in terms of increasing the effectiveness of medicinal products and their combinations. The purpose of developing the mentioned criteria is the audit of medicines, both for ambulatory inpatient medical institutions, which is guarantee of the effectiveness of treatment, especially in the case of polypharmacy in polymorbid elderly patients over the 65 years old. The above-mentioned criteria provide recommendations supported by clear scientific evidence about the dangers and risks related to the use of drugs, pharmacological groups in clinical practice in case of various disease and symptoms. Polypharmacy in geriatric practice much more hazardous. In gerontological practice, various drugs or their combination are used with great caution in reduced doses. For example, the antiarrhythmic drugs as diazepam is purely tolerated in elderly patients. due to the fact that often elderly patients have various diseases, and because of this, maintenance therapy is carried out, and the main treatment strategies is based on the most priority direction of treatment. Special care should be taken during combined therapy of children, pregnant women, especially during polypharmacy. As you see, during polypharmacy, and if taken together, a lot of several drugs from different pharmacological groups increases risk drug-drug interaction properties, producing possible adverse reactions, maybe decrease the effect, increase the effect, maybe producing unwanted side effects. Drug-drug interaction, we have especially two types of interaction: pharmacodynamic. It allows antagonism, synergism, additive effect. And we have also pharmacokinetic interaction, which occurred on the level of pharmacokinetic processes as metabolism, absorption, distribution, and elimination drug from the more often adverse reactions develop with the following pharmacological groups as oral anticoagulants, cardiac glycosates, oral hypoglycemic agent, theophylline-elfilin combination, anti-epileptic drugs, cytostatic drugs, and antidepressants, which are taken often mostly in elderly patients. Drug-induced iatrogenicity is diverse in its manifestations and nature. The etiopathogenic classification of drug-induced iatrogeny is known, which was created as a result of the generalization of scientific work of various researchers. According to this classification, the following groups of drug-induced decreases are distinguished: unwanted pharmacological or side effects, drug intoxication, which include toxic, mutagenic, oncogenic, teratogenic, embryotoxic, immunodepressive, allergic reactions, drug intolerance, drug-induced psychosis, pharmacodynamic or pharmacokinetic interactions between simultaneously administered drugs that may cause complication of the underlying disease. And also we have post-vaccination reactions and side effects. How to prevent drug-induced iatrogenicity? One of the important prevention of drug iatrogenicity is the identification of high-risk elderly patients, early diagnosis and treatment of the disease, minimization of the prescribed drugs, optimal management of chronic disease. A study by Merher et al. Shows that iatrogenic disease can be prevented in 73.8% of patients in the intensive care unit. We have several steps for prevention of drug-induced iatrogenicity. Primary prevention aims to stop iatrogenic diseases before they start, which means reducing and eliminating risk factors for their development. Secondary prevention involves detection and treatment of iatrogenic disease at any early stage before symptoms and functional failure of various organs begin, resulting in reducing morbidity and mortality. Tertiary prevention refers to the appropriate management of an exciting symptomatic chronic iatrogenic disease in order to prevent the development of further profound functional effects. Ways to avoid drug-induced iatrogenicity: sufficient knowledge of indications, contraindications, side effects of medication, limiting self-medication and reducing awareness of medications, introduction of qualified systematic training programs for doctors and other medical personnel, consultation with a clinical pharmacologist at any stage of treatment, which will help the doctor of any specialty to minimize the complication caused by polypharmacy and use of inappropriate drugs. The risk-benefit ratio of prescribed drugs can be improved by proper knowledge of the patient's medical history and side effects of drug. Basic aspects of rational drug prescription: making appropriate diagnosis, considering the pathophysiological results of the diagnosis, selection of specific therapeutic strategies, selection of specific drugs or drug combinations, determining the appropriate dosage regimen, developing a plan of monitoring and action of the drug, and determining the course of therapy or treatment. Selection of a specific therapeutic strategy. For example, during the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis, best attention should be paid to the treatment of symptoms, for example, pain relief, anti-inflammatory, acting drugs, and pathogenic. The following factors should be taken into account when choosing an optimally effective medicine. First, age, gender, accompanying disease, the possibility and danger of possible interaction with other drugs. Drug plan for monitoring the action of the drug and duration of therapy on the way to avoid drug-induced reactions. First, observing the effect of drug and patient symptoms. Use of lab tests if necessary, conducting various diagnostic instrumental studies if necessary, monitor the patient so that he does not stop treatment prematurely unless serious drug side effects and complications develop. What is a good prescribing? It's supporting to avoid drug-induced iatrogenicity. It includes selection of most effective and harmless drug, justification of the choice, knowledge of clinical pharmacology, and rational pharmacotherapy approaches and main aspects. Factors that contribute to the development of side effects of drug, as well as drug-related iatrogenicity, are pregnancy, lactation, renal dysfunction, liver function disorders, and drug allergy. Criteria for personal drug selection: efficiency, safety, compliance, and very important also price of drug. Now, a good 2 to 3 years in Georgia by my team, which involves clinical pharmacology, conducted research project by using electronic recipe system. It's a retrospective study of polypharmacy in Georgia. The study aimed to identify polypharmacy cases, which means prescribing 5 or more than 5 medications and irrational pharmacotherapy. Methods: polypharmacy and irrational pharmacotherapy case in Georgia from 1 July to 30 September 2021 were evaluated using an electronic prescription system. The total number of polypharmacy was 7,665, where 5 or more medications were prescribed. Out of 5,665 cases, 612 is 8% were irrational pharmacotherapy that was assessed according to Beers criteria. American Geriatric Association created these criteria on 2015 and stopped our criteria recommendation of the Great Britain National Health Organization, 2014. Results: out of 612 cases, 95, approximately 15.6% indicated irrational prescription. Containing the using 2 or more drugs containing the same active ingredient under different trade names, which represented approximately 1.2% of the total number of prescriptions. Also, we have other cases which are associated with irrational prescription of drug. In conclusion, medical polypharmacy is widespread in Georgia, also in other countries in the world, especially in comorbid elderly patients, which further increases the morbidity and mortality rates. The obtained results could be used to increase the efficiency of treatment, improve the population health, and reduce the treatment costs. Thank you for your attention. Any questions if you have?
Thank you, Professor. Your expertise and passion for medical and health sciences by your presentation shown through, and it was evident that your insights resonated with our diverse audience. We will ask for the question and answers at the end of the session. Now I'd like to invite Professor Vandana Mishra to start the session.
Okay.
Professor Lisa, can you please stop sharing?
Yes.
Yeah. Professor Vandana, ma'am, your screen is visible now.
Thank you, Dr. Uzma.
Thank you, ma'am.
So thank you, Dr. Luzia, for enlightening us on various aspects of polypharmacy. And it was a very interesting talk. So
Thank you.
now, fast fashion, I chose to speak on this idea because the impact of fashion on market, on economy is very well recognized. However, impact of fashion on environment, I think it is relatively less understood, and the grave consequences are relatively given less attention. So in next 20-25 minutes, I would try to give you a glimpse of the research that I've been doing for past, say, almost 2 decades in the University of Delhi. Now, this fast fashion is actually, it's the idea of inexpensive garment. You buy the garment at a very low price, wear it for once or twice, and then you discard it, right? So on the positive side, if you see, it has democratized fashion. The latest styles are now available to all classes, even to masses, right? However, this has come at a grave environmental cost as well as the cost in terms of human health. If we see the global scenario, so the per capita consumption of garments, if we see, it has in last 50 years, it has almost doubled from 6 kgs to 13 kgs consumption. In the countries like US, UK, Australia, it's increased by 5 times. It's almost 30 kg. In US, an average consumer consumes almost 1 item in less than a week. I mean, which is something. However, the paradox is that despite such an increase in the consumption, the price, the cost that we were paying, say 50 years back or 40 years back, 70 years back, we were paying 30% of our income on garments. Now we pay just 5%. So the question is, how did this happen? How this could be managed? Now this has happened because if you see the whole yarn fabric manufacturing industry, the dyeing industry, that has been actually shifted to this part of the world, the Southeast Asian countries, largely this cluster. This is the cluster where you have densest population in the world. 40%, almost 40% of the world population live in this region. And also, if we briefly see the consequences, environmental consequences, the water quantity. When we did a life cycle assessment of one cotton t-shirt, it takes at least 3,000 liters of water for production. If we see the footprint in terms of carbon, so earlier the clothes were actually transported through waterways. They were manufactured in some countries and then exported through waterways. Now the idea of fashion is different. If the summer collection doesn't reach store in summer, it's of no use at all. So everything has to be quite quick. And now it is the clothes are transported through air. So the carbon footprint has increased like anything. See the chemical use. This industry, textile industry, it is attributed to almost at least 20% of the water pollution. Among the industrial pollutions, it is among the top most industries that are polluting water. Also the solid waste. This is very interesting that 1/3 of the garment produced are sold at the list price. 1/3 are sold at discounted price, and 1/3 are never ever sold. They directly reach landfill. Now, if you see the social cost in countries like Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, it's women who work at very low wages, very poor working conditions. When we visit some of these factories, what we see is that the temperature is so high, such a high heat is there. The fumes of chemical used for dyeing they are so intense. So then all that is translated in terms of health. If you see the global burden, disease of burden, worst pollution levels are seen in Asian countries. In fact, if you see the death toll due to pollution, approximately 90% is in Asian countries, where India and China are the leaders. Now, with this, when we visit some of these textile hubs in these countries, these colored rivers are not something that is uncommon. They are very often you see these streams. I have thousands and thousands of such pictures. So the question that we asked ourselves, how is it that nobody is bothering? You see people walking through the roads. Nobody seems to be bothering. Right? How is it possible? Is this dye toxic? Is it toxic? How is that people are not paying any attention? The question, when we did some of the literature survey, what we found that most of the dyes that are used in textile industry are non-toxic. That is why they are used in tons and tons. The initial testing tells that they are not so toxic, right? The next question we asked ourselves is, what is the fate of these dyes in environment? Do they remain non-toxic in the environment as well when they're released, as we saw in the colored streams? So here we planned a very simple study. We took Acid Orange 7, which is a model dye widely used in industry, not only in textile. It is considered so safe that even for cosmetic industry, it is permissible. Except a few eye makeups, this dye is widely used in cosmetic industry. What we did, we collected microorganisms in these streams, the colored streams, and then used those microorganisms to decolor, to treat this colored water. And what we saw that within a few hours, the color disappeared. I am showing schematic here. The color disappeared and water turned apparently clean. Gave an idea that probably the problem is solved. The color is gone. Now we did another simple experiment where we irrigated some plants with both these solutions, the colored solution, which is the AO7, Acid Orange 7 dye, and also with the dye degraded products where bacteria or microorganisms from the stream has degraded the dye and the solution had turned clean. This we did in two different conditions, because often when the dye is released into environment, treated or partially treated or untreated, it's either released in the turbulent streams, rivers, where you have very high oxygenated environment, which we try to simulate through the shaking condition, shaking the flask throughout. And or sometimes it is released in the ponds which are static, where you have relatively low oxygen conditions, which we try to simulate through the static condition. So what we saw when we took observations on the length of the plants and the biomass of the plants, which grew by irrigating with these solutions, what we saw that the plants that were irrigated with dye grew as well as they were when they were irrigated with water, which again confirmed that the parent dye was not toxic. The colored solution was not as toxic. However, when the solution had turned clean, it really impacted on its growth, giving an indication that probably this solution is toxic. So when the dye was released into environment, it was not so toxic, but in environment, something happened through biological interactions, which turned it toxic. Further, we analyzed the chromosomes of these plants. And what we saw that the plants that were irrigated with dye, they show, when we made these slides which are showing mitosis. So we saw very good stages of mitosis, all metaphase, anaphase, telophase, all could be seen. However, when it was irrigated with the decolored solution, with the apparently clean solution, where dye was degraded by bacteria, all kinds of chromosomal aberrations could be seen. Anaphasic bridges, chromosomal breaks, laggards, multipolar anaphases. So here it had made one thing very clear. We don't have liberty to perform similar experiments on human or various big organisms. However, when the dye and the decolorized solution which is there in the environment is exposed, the living organisms are exposed, all kinds of things are happening in the living organisms around. In fact, the dyes on breakage are converting into aromatic amines, which are known carcinogens. And some of these aromatic amines are actually volatile. They also reach the air, which we are inhaling. When you saw the pictures of people walking by, which are inhaled by us 24:7. We further identified what these compounds are. The clean looking solution, what does it contain? So it contains some of the chemicals like aniline, naphthalene, 1-amino-2-naphthol. A thorough analysis revealed that, see, this is the structure of the parent dye, AO7. Dye is sulfonated. Because of sulfonation, it is water soluble. It is a big molecule. Big molecule, and water soluble chemicals, it's not that easy to enter into the lipoprotein membrane of living organisms, the small organisms which are there around in those streams. However, when it is broken into naphthalene, aniline, 1-amino-2-naphthol, all these are lipophilic molecules, lipid loving. They are small, they can easily pass through the lipoprotein membranes of the living organisms, and they are the known carcinogens by IARC. The next question we asked that, okay, biological interactions are turning dye into toxic products, the non-toxic dye into toxic products. What is happening through the abiotic factors? In those streams you saw, they're exposed to the light, sunlight, they're exposed to various levels of oxygen, they're exposed to humidity, right? So what is happening when these abiotic factors are interacting? And what we saw that, see, actually dyes are often classified as toxic and non-toxic. We reclassified them into 3 categories. Often we see only 2 categories, textile dyes as. So toxic dyes are not of much concern for textile industry, for fashion industry. It's a non-toxic dyes which are of concern, because here within the non-toxic dye, you have this hidden group, which we named as potentially toxic dyes. They, in these cases, to which the acid orange 7 belong. In these cases, the parent compound is not toxic, but the metabolites which are generated in environment are actually toxic. So you can see that when these potentially toxic dyes are exposed to various abiotic factors in the presence of, in the various oxygen levels, aerobic conditions, anaerobic conditions, they have potential to turn into aromatic amines, nitronium ions, diazonium ions, and all these ions have mutagenic and genotoxic properties. So here, from this, the take-home message is that fate of these dyes in environment is quite unpredictable. They can convert into safe metabolites. They can convert it into highly toxic metabolites, which are not monitored in most of these countries. Another contaminant of emerging concern in this industry is microplastic. You know, microplastic globally, when people talk about microplastic, the primary concern is the secondary microplastic, where plastic is thrown into environment, it gets converted into smaller pieces, often micron and nano size. However, when you talk about these countries where the whole textile industry has been shifted, even primary microplastic is a major concern, because here in the effluent which is released by this industry, microplastic is released with a cocktail of other contaminants. The effluent of textile industry, the colored rivers, that the stream that we saw, it has phenols, aromatic amines, so many other chemicals, right? Various salts, so along with microplastic. So here we asked a question, we tried to find out what is the state of knowledge, and we couldn't find much done in these countries which are actually textile hub. So we asked a question, what happens when microplastic is released with these contaminants into the environment? And what we found that along with these contaminants, based on the age of microplastic, based on the surface properties of microplastic, its size, its shape, its chemical properties, concentration of the other contaminant, it can have either synergistic effect, where the toxicity of both the contaminants together is 1,000-fold more than their toxicity separately. It can have antagonistic effect, where the toxicity is really reduced because the microplastic actually absorbed them, and when it even entered the living organisms, and those could not be released into their body. Or it can be additive effects, where it just remains the addition. I think any discussion on fashion would remain incomplete without reference of hair dyes. You know, there was a time when dyes were to hide your gray hair. today they define your personality. Blue color means something else and red color means something else. So here, this whole industry is largely governed by one magic molecule, which is paraphenylene diamine. Now, 80% of this industry is, this molecule is leading this industry. This is a very low molecular weight aromatic amine. It penetrates into your hair shaft, binds with the proteins inside, and develops these versatile colors. These are permanent oxidative dyes. Once you dye your hair, you don't have to dye it again. Only the new hair that you grow, you need to dye. The old one, you never need to dye it again. When we analyzed this, we found that when it is auto-oxidized in environment, all of us might have used the dyeing emulsion creams where you mix the two and then it develops the color, right? So there you have these monomers, dimers, trimers, and polymers. Among these, the trimers, which is the Brandowski's base, it is 10 times more toxic than PPD, and it's known carcinogen. So here we asked ourselves a question. Is there a policy on use of PPD in hair dye? Is there a global policy? Or what is the policy on release of these hair dyes in the effluent? These effluents, in case of hair dye, in case of textile dyes, up to 50% are released into environment. In case of hair dye, more than 85% is unused and it is released into environment. It may not be much a concern when a single individual is dyeing his hair because the quantities are less. But for the professional bodies like salons who are releasing this effluent 24:7, so we try to find out what is the policy on this release of this effluent. So here, this research we did in collaboration with Dr. David Benson, all others are from my group, from University of Exeter. What we saw that in countries like European Unions, Japan, China, Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, ASEAN, there are strict regulations on use of PPD. However, in countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, it is very loosely regulated. In our country, the herbal dyes, the powdered dyes are very famous, and often masses believe that these herbal dyes are more safe than the emulsions. And as per the policy, 3 to 30% of the PPD, that means the dye that we use, the herbal dye, up to 30% could be paraphenylene diamine, which is a carcinogen, which is an aromatic amine, which in fact 2 to 40% are creaming emulsions. However, in this field, a lot of research is happening. People are trying to find out safer solutions, but the major challenge is that the commercial product do not tell you what it contains. Most of the products do not mention what they have. Only those products which are free of PPD, they would mention PPD free. All others would never ever mention what they have. Toxicity of these dyes, the herbal dyes, is so much that in many of these countries, people just eat the dye. It is just to get an idea. They eat the dye and commit suicide. So they are so toxic. So from this part of research, the take-home message is that fate of most of these industrial toxicants actually is yet unknown. There are non-toxic chemicals which are used by industry, saying that it is safe. Because of the loose regulations, not such strict implementation, often they are released into environment, and then they convert it into highly toxic products. So the next question is, what is our role? Now we have two roles to play, one as scientist and other as consumer. First, I would focus on our role as consumer, which each of everyone has to play. And then if time permits, if the organizers permit me, then briefly I'll touch upon some of my research where we have tried to put forth some of the technological solutions. So, when it comes to policymakers, stricter policies is the first and foremost. We need to have a unified certification system. When the clothes are manufactured, if there is a unified certification, how they are manufactured, a lot of problem can be solved, but it is highly complicated. Still, there is a lot which is happening on this front. Not that nothing is happening. Globally, there is a lot of endeavors which are taking place to have some certain very standard certification systems where when we go to market, we see the price. We know the price may be high because it ensures that when the garment was manufactured, all the environmental and social standards were abided by. Next is the role to be played by industry. So often we believe that industry doesn't bother, which is not true. I have been working in close collaboration with industry. There are a couple of projects that we have done together and a couple of workshops I've conducted for industry. And they really want to solve this problem, because if they do not solve this problem, now in our country, norms are much stricter. There is much more awareness on this issue. So if they do not abide by these norms, they would suffer. However, the major challenge with them is that if the cost increases, they say that if our cost increases by 5 paisa, we lose the garment, we lose the order. The order goes to an African country or Bangladesh or many other countries where norms are yet not that strict, right? Then it comes to the consumer. See, many of us are teachers here. I think teachers have a big role to play. We connect every day. We connect to masses. We connect to population, a young crowd. They drive this market. So if we could make them realize the gravity of this issue, a lot of it could be solved. So some people ask me, what is the solution? Are vegetable dyes the solution? Definitely vegetable dyes are solution, but then they are solution only when we redefine fashion in our head. Today, I want a specific blue. That specific blue vegetable dyes can't give me, right? So we need to shift to slow fashion, where we have to actually focus on high price garments. And most importantly, we need to ensure that the garment lives its life in my wardrobe. It doesn't die a premature death. It has to complete its life in my wardrobe. We need to develop a emotional connect to the garments. And I have attended a couple of workshops in UK where the workshops are conducted for the actually consumers. They teach you how to crochet, how to knit, how to weave, because once you spend some of your energy on a garment, you would never ever throw it. You would always keep it with you. So these are in this industry, reuse is very less. There are a couple of big companies who are promoting reuse, at least for the party wear. You can hire them on rent, right? So these are some of the social solutions that each one of us has to adopt to actually contribute to this issue. Dr. Uzma, I would take 2 minutes for sure.
Yes,
if you give me.
Yes, ma'am. Please.
Okay. So now talking about some of the technological solutions that I have been working in my lab, that I've been trying to find. So what we have focused on, we have in this industry, chemical, physical, and biological methods are used. Biological methods are really underexploited. When we say biological methods, it's primarily microorganisms and enzymes that I've been focusing on. So when you see a general treatment process in any common effluent treatment plants, which are very common in our country, what you would see that the microorganisms used are very non-specific. They are general. What they often do, they would add dung into the system, and whatever enriches on exposure of the effluent develops their consortia that would do the function. For the dyes, for azo dyes, there is a basic challenge that these dye, in environment, you have to identify microorganisms that can decolorize, that can reduce the color. It's very quick and very easy. And since policy identifies color as a problem is considered to be solved, right? These microorganisms would never ever eat those metabolites, the aromatic amines, because those aromatic amines are really toxic. Often many of them may die if they try to eat them, right? So what we did in my research, we tried to develop a strategy which is a bottom-up approach. What we did, we collected effluent and enriched this effluent for a couple of months, multiple cycles, for actually developing a consortia that can eat amines. Here we only fed it with amine, nothing else. We didn't give, we can relate. If we have a buffet to eat, you'll eat with choice. If you're in a forest, there's nothing else to eat, you would eat all the wild fruits. So similarly, these microorganisms were actually adopted to eat these aromatic amines, and then later they were actually acclimatized to eat dye. Now, here this proof of concept we have given, it's already published. I forgot to put it here. Another solution are the enzymes. Now, peroxidases are one group of enzymes which are very hardy enzymes. They are used in industry. The current challenge on their big scale use in industry, there are a couple of peroxidases like horseradish peroxidase, which have potential to treat some of these problems by remediation. But the real challenge is that the cost is high because of the purification of peroxidase. So we focused on an innovation. One, we focused on a plant which is a weed in our country. You can say it's a terrorist of plant kingdom, Prosopis juliflora, very widely grown, very widely growing in all parts of our country. And we believe that because this Prosopis can grow any contaminated habitat, it has something that is making it able to grow. And those peroxidases have this potential. Through our biological understanding, we knew that. So we targeted those peroxidases, and it showed that the phenols, another major priority pollutant in the textile effluent, could be actually treated in the water as well as the contaminated soil. Also, we focused on microalgae, which is widely used for, because the potential of algae is that it can generate biomass very quickly. It can grow in any dirty water. It doesn't need very clean conditions to grow, and the biomass can be easily converted into biofuels. So here we developed a consortia of algae and bacteria. The real challenge in algal growth in its large-scale implementation in industry is that it is iron deficient. It needs iron. So we developed a consortia of bacteria and algae, where bacteria can give us algae iron and algae can give bacteria carbon, and both can grow and treat the textile effluent. And last, how mesmerizing it will be if we have a solution where all the energy present in dirty water can be directly converted into electricity. It seems far-fetched, but all of us can remember those days when we were children and we felt that solar energy will never ever be cost competitive. Today we know what is the scenario. So similarly, microbial fuel cells where bacteria can help to harness the energy present in the dirty water into electricity is one solution that we are focusing on. And believe me, this is a very workable solution. People have, although the large-scale experiments are less, but we have some large-scale experiments are definitely there. They've come recently. So with this, I would say that the take-home message is that we need to focus on sustainable production and ethical consumption. We need to develop cost-effective and environmentally safe technologies that can be directly implemented into the current treatment facilities in all these countries which are textile hub. We have to develop stricter laws, improve their implementation, adopt unified certification systems. Such policies have to be there. And most important is change in perception and behavior of consumers. I think if we are able to adopt these things, we can really contribute to this grave environmental issue. Thank you so much for inviting me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Your presentation was very truly insightful, engaging, and thought-provoking. It left a lasting impact on our audience and sparked valuable discussions among our participants. Thank you so much once again. So, thank you so much to both of the keynote speakers for taking the time to speak to our Congress. Your insight and perspective were truly valuable. Just a moment, I want to share the screen first. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, it was a pleasure for us to have both of you with us, and we hope you enjoyed this experience as much as we did. So once again, thank you to both of you for delivering such an exceptional talk. Your willingness to share your knowledge and experiences is generally appreciated and greatly appreciated. And we believe that your talk has contributed significantly to the success of our event. It is individuals like you who make our Congress or conferences memorable and meaningful. And your contribution has enriched our Congress, and we hope to have the opportunity to collaborate with you again in future. I'd like to express my deepest appreciation to all of you, our esteemed participants, speakers, moderators, volunteers, and every individual who has graced us with their presence. Your active engagement, insightful contributions, and unwavering support have been the cornerstone of this conference success. I wish to acknowledge the dedication of our organizing committee member, Mr. Atabe, whose tireless effort have ensured that every detail of this conference has been meticulously planned and executed. I want to extend my warm regards and heartiest congratulations to our chief guest, Dr. Mustafa Latif Ahmed, President ICSAR, and Professor Harpreet Kaur, Congress head, for collaborating and organizing this prestigious Congress. And we are indebted to our esteemed speakers and presenters who will share their knowledge, expertise, and innovative ideas in next 2 days. At the end of session, I'd like to invite Professor Harpreet Kaur, the head of the Congress, for some concluding remarks. Ma'am, over to you.
Professor Vanna and Professor Louisa, I think your both thoughts were very enlightening, because doctors' negligence can lead to a lot of problems. I think you discussed that, and that was very wonderful. Medically, I think we just rely on the doctor for the final word and we go. But sometimes, because they are thank you for taking up such a beautiful topic and giving us a very enlightening perspective on that. And Professor Vanna, I think your topic was very, very interesting. When I read the topic also, I found it very interesting. But how you have presented it is really marvelous, because you have not only taken up the cause, because I have 5,000 students in my college, and when I see the girls are all so well clad with beautiful colors in their t-shirts and all, and it's a kind of a fashion, because they have to be there with their peers and they have to show that what they are. And so fashion is, I think, a very important thing. Very is fashion in a manner. Because that kind of a lot of you can see that at various places, but that concept there, that if we have to do certain things, then the treatment of the affluence is very important. I think has to be taken into consideration, because lifestyle.
I think there is some network issue. We will wait for a while till she joins. Till then, I would like to request everyone to switch on their cameras. We will take a screenshot at the end.
Can you hear me now? Hello. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So I was just putting those thoughts, Professor Vanna's thoughts, that how how this lifestyle for environment is very important. Especially the youth should be very conscious about it. And of course, you have also given the scientific solutions to it. How this cloth, which is being produced, should have certain trademarks, and has certain environmentally conscious things should be inbuilt into it. So all those things and all those solutions which you have put forth is really very impressive. As an environmentalist, you have done your job very beautifully, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. And with all these international participants which we are having today, will come up with good solutions, and with this tone set in with by both the keynote speakers who spoke so well. They're very well documented and speeches. So thank you very much. And of course, Dr. Uzma and Dr. Sangeeta and all who are a part of this conference. I think there's some technical error. So I all the participants, and I hope that we'll have very enlightened sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So at the end of this session, I'd like to share a screen and let you know the details of the sessions which will be held just after this session. So let me share the screen first. So you will see the screen.
You can also take one photograph of all and request them to put their names on.
Ma'am,
And so that we can take a picture.
1 minute, 1 minute. Sharing. Yeah. Ma'am, can you please look in front? Yeah. Yeah, I have taken the pictures. So let's share the details of the main session. Sharing my screen. So, okay, if you see the screen, you will see here the details of the main session. The meeting ID is there and the passcode, and the details are also mailed to the participants. You have to join it 1 p.m. at Indian time. And for the international participants, it is I think 10:30 a.m. Am I right?
Yes, Miss.
Okay.
Yes, you are right.
So please join your respective halls as per the program, which we have already shared to you all. And at the end, I would like to thank you to all of you for participating in this conference. Thank you so much. We'll meet you in the main session.
Thank you, Dr. Usman, Dr. Harpreet.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck. I wish success in this conference, all participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Luzia and Dr. Mustafa. Thank you so
too,
much.
thank you.
All the participants.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mustafa Latif. Atapek, hello again. Good luck, all participants.
Good luck.
Sangeeta ma'am, can you please stop the YouTube live?
Yes.